are rebuilding. All right, let's move over to the Pac-12 South. Jeff, the UCLA Bruins, to win the national championship, are the highest team in the Pac-12, or one of the highest, at 15-1. So they look pretty good in the Pac-12.
Yeah, they haven't looked this good since the Terry Donahue days. Jim Moore has done a tremendous job here, especially with recruiting, which is something that his recent predecessors couldn't do. Last year, UCLA 10-3, straight up 9-4 against the spread. They returned 7 on offense, 8 on defense. Their big break was when the quarterback Brett Hundley decided to stay in school instead of going pro. Last year, the offensive line is in good shape too. Just about the entire receiving corps is back, and so are running backs Jordan James and Paul Perkins. Linebacker Miles Jack, who stepped in at running back last year and gained 267 yards, is back. The biggest loss in defense is linebacker Anthony Barr, but they still have just about everybody else back. Plus, they have plenty of depth there in defense. They open at Virginia in a game that starts at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Those cross-country day games are not easy for those West Coast teams. They have home versus Memphis. Then in a huge test, we'll play Texas at Cowboy Stadium in Arlington. It's a good conference schedule because they get Oregon, Arizona, USC, and Stanford all at home. So right now things are looking really good in Westwood, and they have I'd call for a 10-2 season. It could even be better than that with a couple breaks too.
All right, I'm going to take a look at the Arizona State Sun Devils. Well, have a great season, 10-4 straight up, 7-7 against the spread, 8-1 in the Pac-12, a 9-5 run over the total. Good news is they got 7 starters back on offense, but a very talented defense was gutted. They only got 2 starters back for Coach Todd Graham. Now, he's an offensive mastermind, loves the pass, and this team was terrific last year, both rushing and passing, 39.7 points per game. Arizona State was 11th in the country in scoring. They did it with 266 yards passing. That ranked 32nd. And the ground game had 191.4 yards. That was 40th in the country. And he's got senior quarterback Taylor Kelly back. He was terrific. 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, over 62% completions, plus terrific legs. He ran for 608 yards, and they got plenty of talent to help him at the skill positions. Junior running back DJ Foster is back. He had 501 yards, 5.4 yards per carry. Terrific player out of the backfield as a receiver, caught 63 passes for 653 yards. They also have 6'4" junior wide receiver Jalen Strong. He had over 1,100 yards receiving. So this offense really loaded. 3 starters are back on the offensive line, but keep in mind, Arizona State, despite how good they were last year, they struggled badly in protecting the quarterback. Taylor was sacked 39 times. In fact, 42 quarterback sacks for the entire season. So that was a major problem. The defense was up and down last year, giving up 26.6 points per game. Not very good, but otherwise they had a terrific pass rush. But they do lose their 4 starters up front, and they were very good. So it's a very difficult task rebuilding the front line for the Sun Devils. This is a group that had the 4 guys up front combined for 24.5 sacks last year. They do return junior nose tackle Jackson Hood, and he has plenty of upside, but really the front 4 was gutted, as well as the linebacking core. And the secondary, too, is in rough shape, as they had 3 all Pac-12 players who moved on to the NFL. Robert Nelson was a first-team all Pac-12 cover man, and Oshawn Ebro was a terrific playmaker. So Todd Graham brought in 5 junior college players for the front, and he signed 7 guys to help in the linebacker core and in the secondary. So it's a bit of a mystery. I'd have to say they're going to take a step back defensively. Certainly a lot of new faces. They have been covering numbers, though. 15-11-1 against the spread run Arizona State has. Schedule is actually pretty soft early on. They should be 3-0 to start the year in September before hosting UCLA. That's going to be a Thursday game, September 25th, and a big one. And this is a team that won at UCLA, so it's a revenge game for the Bruins. It was a 38-33 shootout last year. Then Arizona State has some tough games at USC, at Washington, at Oregon State, and at Arizona. So they got the talent to have a winning record. But, boy, going 8-1 in the Pac-12 again is going to be difficult. All right, Jeff, another team, sort of a young up-and-coming team, would be the Men of Troy. They also have some new looks.
Yeah, well, last year 10-4, 7-7 against the spread. They had 3 head coaches last year, so this year they have another one. Steve Kosician comes over from Washington. They had the top recruiting class in the Pac-12. Sarkisian's going to bring a no-huddle offense this year. Clay Houghton is still there as offensive coordinator. He was one of the coaches last year. He took over for the bowl game when Ed Orgeron resigned. Returned 6 on offense, 8 on defense. The junior Cody Kessler last year, 20 TDs, 7 interceptions. He'll be the starter. Max Brown, a redshirt freshman, will probably be the starter of the future, but right now I think Kessler is the best fit. Junior wide receiver Nelson Aguilar leads the receiving corps along with Darius Rogers. Big question mark is the offensive line, as it was last year. Last year, Kessler was sacked 30 times, and they lost Marcus Martin, their starting center. The defensive line is one of the best in the country, especially against the run. Secondary is deep and experienced. They'll play a formidable schedule. They open at home versus Fresno State, and then play at Stanford and at Boston College. It's another one of those cross-country trips for a West Coast team. Also at Arizona and at Utah. They get UCLA and the Rose Bowl, of course. Oregon State, Arizona State, and Notre Dame are at home. I would say a 9-3 season is in the offing for USC this year, John.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at the Arizona Wildcats. They still have Coach Rich Rodriguez in his third year running that zone read spread option attack. He's got 6 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. It's a team that was 8-5 last year, just 4-5 in the Pac-12, 8-5 under the total. And what we're going to see is new looks on the offense. In fact, it's going to start with quarterback. They actually have 4 quarterbacks who are going to be trying to win the starting spot. You got a lot of them are transfers too. You got a USC transfer in Jesse Scroggins. You got Anu Solomon. Both these guys were with Arizona last year, but they sat and watched from the sidelines. And they were 2 highly touted dual threat quarterback prospects coming out of high school. And then they also got a couple of other guys. Connor Brewer, he's a transfer from the University of Texas. And they have a junior college transfer in Jared Rendell, but he actually started his career at LSU. So a lot of talent from other schools, but a lot of new faces trying to figure out who's going to be quarterback for Arizona this fall. And unfortunately in the backfield, they had a dynamite runner in Kadeem Carey, but he went early to the NFL. Last 2 years, he's averaged 1,900 yards rushing in each of the last 2 years. Just a phenomenal talent. And there's not a lot of experience replacing him. They got 5'8" junior Jared Baker back. He had 127 yards last year, 4.7 yards per carry, but he's working his way back from a torn ACL. And they have a couple of redshirt freshmen in Pierre Cormier and Zach Green. So overall, a lot of new faces in the backfield. Sophomore wide receiver Nate Phillips is back. He's a 5'8" target. Led the team with 51 catches and 696 yards. So it's pretty good target, but again, it's a run-first offense for Arizona. The defense last year made huge progress. They went from 35 points per game allowed 2 years ago to 24.2 last year, 39th in the country. Remember, a year ago, they had 11 starters. The entire defense was returning. Totally opposite this season, as only 2 starters are returning. So they're severely rebuilding. If you want to look at the strength for the Wildcat defense, it's going to be the linebacker. Of course, Scooby Wright is back, plus safety Jared Tavis. He's very good. But overall, this got to believe this defense is going to take a step back, and that's a major concern with all the new quarterbacks that they have. The schedule, now they actually could start 4-0. They got to play Texas San Antonio, UNLV, Nevada, and Cal. But then, boy, does it turn quickly. They're going to be playing at Oregon, USC, at Washington State, and at UCLA. The one revenge game on the schedule was the game they always get up for late in the year against Arizona State, where Arizona State pummeled them 58-21. So I think it's going to be a team that's probably not going to be at 8-5 this season, struggling around the 500 mark. So Arizona, I think they should be shooting for a bowl and a winning record more so than a 9 or 10 win season. All right, how about another rebuilding team in the Colorado Buffaloes, Jeff?
Coach Mike McIntyre has a huge job ahead of him trying to rebuild his program. They're 4-8 last year, 1-8 in the Pac-12, 7-6 against the spread. They returned 6 on offense, 7 on defense. Those 4 wins last year. The toughest team they beat was Colorado State, so it wasn't really much to shout about. Starting quarterback would be 6'4" sophomore Sefo Liafau. Sophomore quarterback Jordan Gerke will be ready to step in if needed. 2 solid running backs there, and sophomore Michael Atkins, a junior Christian Powell. Some quality receivers, and Nelson Spruce and Dede Goodson. On defense, linebacker Addison Gillum had 18 tackles in one game last year off the school freshman record. He had 119 for the season. But the Buffaloes allowed 208 rushing yards per game and had the fewest sacks of any Pac-12 team with 17. Probably 17. They'll probably finish last in the South again. They could start out 3-1 because they have Colorado State, UMass, and Hawaii sandwiched around Arizona State. But I don't see many wins in the conference, John. They might pull out another 4-win season, maybe 5-7.
Okay, the Utah Utes, here's a team that has struggled the last 2 years. 3 years ago, back in 2011, they actually had an 8-5 debut in the Pac-12 under Kyle Whittingham, but the last two they've struggled. They're 10-14 over the last 2 years, coming off a 5-7 season, and they got 6 starters back on offense, 5 on defense. So it's a 2-year bowl drought. So there's some heat on. And what happened last year is they just ran out of gas. Utah actually started 4-2. They had an upset of Stanford, 27-21. They also beat BYU as a 7-point dog, 20-13. So they were doing everything right. And then everything just fell apart. They finished 1-5 straight up, 2-4 against the spread. The offense was pretty good, averaging 29.2 points per game. Nice balance, 236 yards passing and 160 rushing per game. But they do have some problems at quarterback. There's no shortage of experience, but these guys really weren't that impressive. 6'6", 240-pound junior quarterback Travis Wilson is back. 16 touchdowns, but also 16 interceptions, only 56% completions. They also have junior quarterback Adam Schultz. He saw some time with just over 1,000 yards passing, but 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So as a result, they're going to have take a look at some other guys, including redshirt freshman quarterback Connor Manning. He's in the mix. But coming out of spring, it looked like Wilson, the veteran who had 16 touchdowns, he actually played the best, so he's likely to get the start again. And they have a new play caller in Dave Christensen. He used to be the Wyoming head coach. Backfield is pretty decent with junior running backs Devontae Booker and Bubba Powell. Poole had 607 yards, just 4.1 yards per carry. And they do like a speedy freshman and 5'9", Troy McCormick, along with 3 starters on the offensive line. So this offense should be a decent, maybe even better. The defense last year ranked 73rd in the country in points allowed, 28 points per game. And they've ranked 7th or higher in the Pac-12 in total defense in each of the last 3 seasons. The key for 2014 is rebuilding the line. They had lost some key players on the line. They do have a very good linebacker core led by Jason Withingham and Jared Norris and Jacoby Hale. And then they got a Brian Bletchen, who is actually a linebacker / safety. He plays up on the line a lot. And the secondary for the Utes is really very good. It's loaded with cornerbacks Davian Orphy and Justin Thomas. So it looks like a pretty good team overall, pretty good defense. And if they want to end this 2-year bowl drought, they need a little bit of an improvement in the offense, and the defense does look better. The schedule, not very good schedule. They play 5 of 8 games on the road from September 20th to November 15th. It is a difficult stretch. And then early in the season on September 20th, they're going to be playing Michigan. It's a long non-conference game, long road game. They got some games are going to be playing at Michigan, at UCLA, at Oregon State, at Stanford, and at Arizona State. So looks like a better Utah team, but boy, a very difficult schedule. And if you want to find a revenge game, it's going to be very early. It's going to be Washington State on September 27th. Here's a game that they really needed to win last year, but they lost 49-37 late in the year, prevented them from getting to a bowl, and they were shredded by Washington State. 578 yards they gave up. In fact, Washington State had 488 yards passing on the Ute secondary, so that's a key. Utah has lost 5 in a row since upsetting number 10 Stanford last year, so they really need to turn it around. All right, make sure you check out JimFice.com for more college football previews, as well as videos, articles, free picks, and betting tips. Jeff and I will see you with more previews for college football for 2014. We'll see you next week.